King of the Hill. Let's open the black book. Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and welcome to another thrilling edition of the Fantasy Black Book. Black, right here on the Brawl Network. That's right, we are new to the Brawl Network, but we're not new, so we want to welcome everybody who's maybe watching us for the first time and listening to us for the first time. These are my boys, Scott Bogman and The Welsh, and we are coming to you live because that's what we do here on the Fantasy Black Book. I am the best-selling author and obnoxious TV and radio personality, Joe Pisapia. Scott Bogman and The Welsh are the two giants of industry known as In This League podcast. And I say that because obviously Welsh is very tall and obviously Bogman's knowledge is very large. His large knowledge. I got a huge knowledge. His knowledge, don't question me on that. His knowledge is not, there's no compromise to that man's knowledge. And we are going to come to you here every single week on the Brawl Network, talking football, talking fantasy, talking everything. So we are very happy and excited. I want to spend a special shout out to our guy, Michael Shoddy, for kind of setting this whole thing up, and all the Brawl Network team for allowing us to be a part of this. And we're very excited to be here for you guys and talking football. And this is going to be a great interactive platform. So as you can see here, you can follow us on the Twitter machine at Bogman Sports, at Is It The Welsh, at Joe Pisapia 17. And let's just kick things off here. And I think we got to start with Tyreek Hill, shades of Flipper Anderson. And let's talk about the Kansas City Tampa Bay game, because yesterday, guys, that seems to definitely have been the marquee matchup we were all anticipating. Got a little weird there in the fourth quarter. Certainly the beginning of this game felt like it was going to be an absolute cakewalk, and then things got tighter, lots of turnovers in the red zone. That kind of seemed to be the undoing of this game in the second half. But, Welsh, let's start with you. This day from Tyreek Hill, a reminder that Tyreek Hill, once again, is one of those elite wide receivers in the NFL, and what a stunning first quarter of football for him. 200 yards. I mean, this game already seemed like it was going to be toast, but somehow Tampa was able to keep this closer than people thought. So did you play against Tyreek Hill this week anywhere? Because I think that is the question.
No, I didn't notice or take charge of. I mean, you know how it goes sometimes. You're going and you're playing against somebody. You look at the score. You're like, oh, I'm down 60. Don't care about that league for this week. Bye-bye. Don't care. No, I don't think I faced off. But you want to know something that sticks with me when I see these type of performances? And this is probably way more of my personality. I see he goes 13 for 269, and you just knew there was more room to go. You knew there, like, I get annoyed when I see these performances, when teams backpedal off of a player, the ball stops going to them, they're up and they stop. Let this guy go nuts. I want to see a 400. Who was that college kid this past weekend, Bogman, that after the half, he had like 5 touchdowns?
Patterson. Jared Patterson, the running back for Buffalo, had 8 touchdowns.
I want to see that keep going. So when I see Tyreek Hill with this, he had a legit shot to break records. I wanted to see him go like 350, give me 400, give me 20 catches, do something so absurd that people are like, is this a PS5 commercial? I don't know what the hell's going on. But Tyreek Hill, he was a DFS mainstay, a monster, and he's done some damage. I believe he's already over 1,000 yards. Yeah. I wish I could credit the person who did it, but they pointed out what he's done through week 12 would have been wide receiver 6 total for last year.
Wow.
So think of the room that.
Well, I'm going to give you credit for it because you just said it. So somebody else smarter.
Great research, Welsh.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done. Welsh, you're the best researcher we got. We're so happy to have you here.
My research is so big. It's such a big amount of research. And
10-inch research over there, do you?
Yeah, it's just great. Now, and Boggs, look, 462 yards for Mahomes in this game. And then clearly, this was his second highest total. And look, this guy is kind of, picking up the torch here from Tom Brady. It's kind of fun to watch those two together. Now they officially have a 500 record against each other. But, on the other side of this game, Tom Brady is up to 11 picks now on the year. And once again, we've failed to run the football. And every week on this show, I sit here on Mondays and I say, hey, if you run the football, Tom Brady is going to play better quarterback position. It's just going to happen. Like it's one of those things. If you don't run the football properly, if you don't set up play action, Tom Brady is not going to be as effective. And here we are again. And now today, I literally just read 5 minutes before the show, Bruce Arians saying, we got to get Ronald Jones 20 carries. No kidding. You got to get Ronald Jones 20 carries. What are we doing here?
Isn't that frustrating when a coach says that, by the way? It's the dumbest thing on the planet. Then do it.
Then call the plays. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and I want you to take the Tampa side of this game for a second, because, Godwin is starting to look like the guy we thought Godwin would be with Brady. He's been excellent since he came back. Is this a matter of Tampa at this point, Boggs? Like, does this whole regular season basically set up for them as this is our preseason for the playoffs? Like, we just got to figure things out. And if we can get in the playoffs, then it's all bets are off, because it kind of feels like that's where they're treating it sometimes. Yeah,
and Romo even said that. He said he expects the Super Bowl to be the Chiefs and Bucks. So
Romo also says the word especially every 5 minutes, which I just want everybody to know.
Does it not a word piss you off? Yeah,
it especially infuriates
me.
That
especially sounds like something I might
sometimes
say.
When he says it, I actually spit out my espresso while he says it because I'm so upset. Yeah. True story.
Look, I think, just picking up from what you're talking about, the Godwin thing first is Godwin's just getting healthy. He's had multiple issues. He's had the hamstring, and then he had the broken finger. They showed him a couple weeks ago trying to catch the ball, not using his middle finger and index finger on his right hand. Like, he's been going through it. So just getting healthy has been great for Godwin, and I think he was fully healthy in this game. That's why he got targeted 9 times and had 8 catches for 97 yards. I think the same thing happened to Mike Evans earlier in the year where he had the hamstring strain. It was you could tell that he was just not 100%. Right. But I think a lot of these picks are not only, everyone knows all of the, whatever he is, 1 for his last 25 on balls over 20 yards. All that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of it is miscommunication with his wide receivers, and that's what happens when you're stepping into a new place to play, even this late in the season, especially with no preseason, limited practices this week specifically. Especially, I don't know how.
I hate it. And everyone tells me, the prolific Tony Romo. And I was like, look, Tony Romo knows a lot about football. I will give him that. But especially is just not a word. Now watch, every time somebody who's listening to the show or watching this show now, every time now they hear Tony Romo, they're going to be listening for it. They're going to hear it. And they're going to think about
a shirt. I'll wear that during the show.
Hashtag especially right here.
Yeah, especially. But you're absolutely right about this run game. They need to get it going. And honestly, we saw this on both sides of the ball. The Chiefs' inability to run the ball in this game, and it's one of the
we anticipated that, Boggs, because Tampa's very good against
that's what let Tampa Bay back in this game.
Right.
Was their inability to run the football, because when you go up, then you lean on your running backs. That's what you're supposed to do. And Tyreek Hill torched them in the first half. He had room to grow, like Welsh said. I don't know why they didn't go back to him more in the second half to really blow that lead up. But they let Tampa Bay climb back in this game. So it was close at the end. But I wish they would pick a running back and go with it. Jones has been playing better than Fournette, but the touches were still 10-6 in Jones's
I think
favor.
That's about to happen, though. Like I was saying it last week on the In This League Fantasy Football podcast to you, Boggs, that I think that's about to happen. And I think Arians is starting to kind of play that card. I thought this week it was going to even be more Jones than it was. He was still the feature back. They even got him involved in the receiving game, and he had an awesome touchdown.
Yeah.
And I think it furthermore puts the point to what you're saying. I know in your perfect world, it's the other end where it's Fournette.
I don't care. I just want a solution to this.
I think the solution is clear. The solution is Ronald Jones and committing to it. And the funny thing is, they got behind in this game, like they've gotten behind a few weeks now, and they just abandoned it altogether. And that is just not how you do things. Look, nobody watches more Patriot football than me. I've told you for the last 3 years, if you don't support Tom Brady with play action and support him with 20-something carries a game from the running game, I don't care if it's one guy or if it's a committee of guys, whatever it is, you must do it. It is just a necessity in order for him to get those safeties to play properly and everybody to respect the run a little bit more. They're not doing that. And the failure there and the lack of commitment to it. And if you go back and look at the games where they look great, where the Bucs look like the best team in the NFC, it just so happens those are games where Ronald Jones has 100 yards rushing. A couple weeks ago when he had 198, we're all saying, hey, Bucs are back. Revenge Tom Brady game. Look how it goes. What happens? Then we go right back again. It's like every week, this yo-yo is just driving me crazy.
Well, at least Patrick Mahomes has enough commercials to get a handshake from Tom Brady.
Yeah, we're more on the handshake later. We're going to save the handshake stuff for the 2-minute drill because I knew it. I knew there was no way we were getting through this show without the handshake.
Do you think Patrick Mahomes really put ketchup on any of his Thanksgiving food? You think he did?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
It's
say
so gross. It's
I'm gonna
so, like, I hope
I'm gonna say
not.
no. I think it's. I'm gonna say
I don't
no.
like ketchup. I'm not a ketchup person. I ask for
Really?
my burgers without ketchup. I
Oh,
don't
I
eat
like
fries
ketchup.
with ketchup.
So
I
what do you
not
put on
like
your
it.
burger? It's just
Mustard.
meat and cheese. Oh,
Mustard.
He
mustard.
puts cheese. He puts cheese on top of the cheese.
What about
Yeah.
barbecue sauce? You do the barbecue sauce?
Not really. No, I usually just
You're a
mustard and
Texas
onions.
boy who doesn't
and-
do barbecue sauce. What happened?
Well,
How is that a
not
thing?
trashy fast food barbecue sauce.
Okay,
I
well,
won't.
that's fair.
You can ask the Welsh. I won't even go to like the nicer barbecue places here because my mom cooks barbecue much better than them.
He's
So
an elitist. He's become
I'm definitely an elitist.
He's
about
become
barbecue.
a foodie elitist, which is a major problem.
Well, I'm not a
Major
foodie
problem.
elitist at all. I eat food more than any person. Oh, but I'm not gonna have your trashy sauces. I'm sorry.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Let's talk about a guy who does not have trouble getting carries. Let's talk about Derrick Henry. Because you know what time it is? It's Derrick Henry season.
It's
and
Henry time. What time
love
is it?
Oh,
It's Henry
Derrick
time.
Henry. Man, I love this. Dude had 140 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. And just for perspective, and look, I understand that DeForest Buckner was out, and once he was out for this game on Sunday morning on Sports Grid on the TV show, I talked about this on game day. I said, look, I understand the Indianapolis defense is really good on paper, and they've played very well. But without Buckner, it's not going to be the same. You can go ahead and pay up for Henry in DFS. And if you did, you done well. I mean, the guy had a phenomenal day. This is another one, Welsh, where he could have 300 yards if they just get down into the football. But look, a great day for Henry, a huge game for the Tennessee Titans, who I think offensively are playing better now than they were offensively a year ago. My problem with the Titans is still, what's the defense and what's the special team situation? And Boggs, I want to ask you a question about the Colts here. They gave up 35 points in the first half. That's more than they've given up in any game this whole year, an entire game, and they gave that up in the first half. Do you think this is as simple as, look, Henry, Brown, Titans came in there ready to go and get some revenge and then just chalk it up and just forget about it? Or is this Buckner injury a huge, huge blow and maybe more impactful than anyone even realized?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, but I think this game in particular got away from them real quick. And they actually they were trying to climb back in the second half and just they could not stop. As soon as it looked like they had everything stopped, here's Tennessee returning a punt. You know what I mean? So it just, or a kickoff or whatever it was. So it did not work out for them. But losing Buckner is huge. Welsh will tell you. He's a Niner fan who loved DeForest Buckner. A guy of his caliber is irreplaceable. No matter if you take a first round level guy like Javon Kinlaw and stick him right in the middle there, you're not replacing Buckner. Buckner is if he stays healthy, he's a future Hall of Famer. So
yeah, he's in that conversation after Aaron Donald for who the best lineman in the NFL. He's right in that conversation. And AJ Brown, another smash game for him too. I mean, the dude is an absolute beast. He's clearly a wide receiver 1 next year in fantasy. He's a wide receiver 1 this year.
I heard Chris Rose saying he's better than Metcalf.
I
don't know if I'm going to go that far.
I don't think I want to go that far.
But AJ Brown is much better than people give him credit
for.
He was a huge sleeper this year because of that.
Well, and I love it too, but people do that lazy bull crap, by the way. I just want to point out. They do that lazy
prisoners of the moment.
But no, they're at the same college. So it's just like, hey, AJ Brown. Can you imagine AJ Brown and DK Metcalf? How did this team, how are they such losers and whatnot? And then everyone compares him. DK Metcalf is so much better than AJ Brown right now. From a consistency standpoint, it's not remotely close. But I love AJ Brown. Huge AJ. No, they're
one's in the convert. Look, one is a clear wide receiver 1. The other is fighting.
One also has Tannehill and one has Russell Wilson.
That's also a good point. That's fair. Very fair point. You, not just a pretty face, Scott Bogman, after all.
Not even a pretty face.
Not even a pretty face, but great hair. Phenomenal hair. Great, I mean, really I am jealous of the hair. Everybody knows that. But AJ Brown, the knock on him, Welsh, coming into this year was very clear. It was, well, he was incredibly efficient. He made the most out of every single moment he had, but he didn't have a lot of moments. He didn't have as many opportunities as you would want from a wide receiver 1. And it's funny to me because all you're seeing this year is the same thing. He's having some more opportunities they did last year, but he's just as effective as he was. So clearly the dude is just great at what he does. And clearly everybody was overthinking it and not realizing this is a young guy. And the more he gets acclimated to the league, the better he is going to be. And I think that's what we're seeing this year. And I think next year, I'm perfectly fine with AJ Brown being a number 1 wide receiver on my fantasy team. I'm good with that.
He's always had the talent, and what's good is the offense is centering around him. He has had only or I should say this differently. He has had only less than 5 targets one time the whole year. It's 6+ targets the entire season, except for the game against the Colts, actually, on the 12th. And the dude has had a touchdown in all but 2 games this year. So he has been able to be a focal point. And don't forget about this as well. Derrick Henry makes all of these players exponentially better by being able to set up the run. I think Derrick Henry kind of subsides some of the negatives that might be out there about Ryan Tannehill total as a quarterback and whatever deficiencies he might have. But Derrick Henry creates the space for the wide receivers even more by the defense being terrified that this guy, who, by the way, Derrick Henry has had 7 100 rushing yard games this year. He's had more games going over 100 than not. And A.J. Brown has been the beneficiary of it because he's a big talent. He's a playmaker. He's, like I said, only 2 games the whole season where he hasn't had a receiving touchdown. I don't know if he's a wide receiver 1 if you're looking at like total fantasy, but he's in the conversation. I think he's in the tier.
A wide receiver 1, and that's the whole point. It's like, and when wide receiver is an embarrassment of riches this year, and it's going to be even better next year because you're going to get, as Bogman likes to say always, this class coming is very talented as well. So back to back, we're gonna have some really good young wide receivers entering the league, and it's a very pass happy league.
And the thing, I think the thing that puts it over as far as fantasy goes in DK Metcalf's favor is that the Titans do have Derrick Henry, and every single game, Derrick Henry is the focal point of the offense.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works in Seattle. A lot of the times, DK Metcalf is the center. Lockett is the center. Sometimes it's Carson. Sometimes it's Russell himself. So it switches, but in Tennessee, every week, the ball is going through Derrick Henry.
Well, what's also amazing, if you think about A.J. Brown for just a minute, think about like how good we're talking about him. He's got 8 touchdowns, I believe, as far as receiving goes. That's tied for 6th best. He has 40 catches on the entire season. So again, he's doing what he did last year. He had these sample sizes of like, Jesus, he can average 20 yards per catch. Look at what he's doing. He's doing it again. He's missed some time, but 40 catches has him tied 6th for receiving touchdown, and has you talking about him as a wide receiver 1 going next year. 40 catches in the Tennessee offense. There's a lot more upside that's out there.
It's the quality of the productivity when he's on the field. And kind of going back to what I was alluding to earlier about Tennessee, I look at Tennessee with Corey Davis playing well this year and Johnny Smith emerging this year. They are a more complete offense. Defense still has some work to do, clearly, and the special teams is still a hot mess. But that's the danger. But this was a must-win game for the Titans. They won. But switching from one great running back performance to another, let's talk about Nick Chubb. Another brilliant performance for him. This was, by the way, in this game for Baker Mayfield, this was the first touchdown pass he's thrown in week 7.
Oh my God.
Since week 7. You like that? I got my notes here, and I got the things I like to point out here. So, and look at their record. So this tells you everything you need to know about the Browns. They are literally trying to run their way into the playoffs. I think it's going to work. And I have to say, being prisoners of the moment here for a moment, if I may, that I'm looking at Derrick Henry and I'm looking at Nick Chubb, and I feel so good about both of those guys in the very number 1 and number 2 spot overall next year, because if Taysom Hill keeps on doing what he's doing and he becomes the guy next year, I don't know what that does to Kamara. I know CMC is still where Bogman would go, but when you're talking about focal points of the offense, it's Chubb, it's Derrick Henry, and it's everybody else, because as great as Dalvin Cook is also, Dalvin Cook is a continual injury threat and injury risk. So I feel like I'm being prisoner of the moment, but I don't know, guys. Do you feel like there's enough there where you say just simply this is the 1 and 2 in rushing last year, and this year they look like they're going to be the 1 and 2 in rushing again?
I think you're a little bit of a prisoner of the moment, because I think the Browns are the worst 8-3 team I've ever seen in my life. It's amazing. It's almost like reminiscent of that old Ravens team that just played all the defense, and Trent Dilfer was a quarterback, so he only needed to throw it.
Except that defense was so much
the Browns don't quite have that.
It was one of the great. Yeah. That defense would outscore the offense many a week.
But I think they are run heavy now. I don't know how long that can always be, and how successful this team is going to be able to be if they can't throw the ball. If they literally can't compete in 35 passes, for a couple weeks on offense, and they're only going to find the success in the running game, I worry about it. Nick Chubb is an insane talent. They don't need Kareem Hunt there to have a really successful backfield, but they complement each other well. I couldn't, because of some of the same factors we came into this year where we were questioning, can Chubb be a dominant RB1 if Kareem Hunt is taking away and they have all these receiving options? Some of those questions were answered, but I just don't think he belongs in the tier. He just doesn't own the spot. Like if you had the 6th or 7th pick next year, you're going to feel great with Nick Chubb.
Oh, please. If I get Nick Chubb at 6,
I think
and we kind of talked about this last week. We talked about, boy, it would be great to get the 4th spot. And I would say, hey, it'd be great to get the 6th spot. The later you draft in the 1st round next year, you're going to get a steal on somebody. One of these dudes is going to fall there, and they shouldn't.
Joe, you just talked about Dalvin Cook being an injury issue. Did you forget about the 4 games that Nick Chubb missed this year?
No.
That's already in there. And he still has Kareem Hunt, and he's.
But I also didn't forget about the 4 years of watching Dalvin Cook miss time either.
I understand that, but Dalvin Cook has been more healthy. Yes, he goes to the blue tent every single week. He did it this week too.
He's in that
came
blue
right back
tent.
In there.
He's in,
but he hasn't missed
more
a
than
game yet, or has he missed one? I can't remember. He might.
Dalvin Cook spends more time in the tent than our friend Nate Hamilton, who loves
or our friend the Welsh recently. So absolutely.
Let me ask you this: Would you rather have Nick Chubb or Saquon Barkley?
That's the question, and I will say Saquon because
I play mainly PPR leagues though.
Well, that's the whole
standard. It gets closer, but half. It still favors Saquon,
but that's
even
why,
with his injury.
That's why Chubb isn't a guy I think you can put at 1. But Chubb
won't be there, but he should be considered as one of the safest investments. And
let me real quick. That's why, Joe, I already know in the 2021 Fantasy Black Book that'll come out, you're going to have a great piece in there, and you're going to be able to, I'm
going to make the argument for it.
You're going to make the argument.
Like I made the argument this year for Derrick Henry.
That's the guy you can take at
1 overall,
and the guy that you were going to take at 6 or 7 or 8 that's going to have number 1 overall potential, and that'll be Nick Chubb. And I know you'll be a big Nick Chubb guy next year, and I think it plays. I think it plays.
It does.
Look, Nick Chubb is great, but also you got to remember they still do have Hunt. I don't think Chubb is the better running back. He just is. Hunt's a great running back, but Chubb is better. So I'm with you as far as him being a high pick. I just cannot put him at 2 right now. And let me tell you this too: Taysom Hill, should Drew Brees retire, ain't going to be the starter for the Saints.
Well, let's put a pin in that. We come back, we'll talk more about New Orleans, whether they should have played this game at all, and what a mensch Kendall Hilton did. What a great job that kid did. We're getting a break. We'll come back right after this.
Who?
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Brawl Network Fantasy Black Book here with you. And look, let's pick up where we left off. And Kendall Hinton, who I think had absolutely every right to say, no, thanks, I'm good, took an opportunity to play in the NFL for 1 day as a quarterback with no practice time, with no preparation, with no knowledge of the playbook, which I can't even imagine how terrifying that is. That's practically one of us getting dropped in to play quarterback for the Denver Broncos. And it is a crazy notion to think on Saturday morning he gets this phone call that, hey, you want to play for the Broncos? Sure. You want to play quarterback? What? I haven't played quarterback in a long time. I don't know if that's the best idea. And there he is. And I want to give Kendall Hinton all the credit in the world for going out there, for taking a shot, knowing it was probably going to be an epic fail. And he's going to have a great story to tell his grandkids. So that being said, do you think they should have played this game? Or do you think the integrity of this game was ruined by what happened and they should have said, no, let's push this game because and now apparently they've cleared the quarterback. So they've all tested. Yeah. So one more day they could have played with some sort of integrity at the quarterback position.
They should have pushed it. I think they 100% should have pushed this game with the quarterback situation. I think it was a negative for the NFL, an oversight. That's what I'm trying to say. An oversight for the NFL to allow this to happen. But I think Bogman, you may have even pointed this out on ITL. I think it might have also been a statement. The NFL just going, you made this bed. Why don't you lie in it for a little bit? That they would allow this to happen because the sanctions and the hits that are going across the NFL on players and teams for violating some of these rules are getting more aggressive. I think it's embarrassing that the NFL let it happen, though. I get the statement.
You think they would have let it happen to the Chiefs or no, they wouldn't have let it happen to one of the markets. They let it happen to the Broncos because the Broncos are inconsequential in terms of
what I think is worse about this is that you have a game that you've pushed off. Lamar Jackson, by the way,
right?
You pushed it off to Tuesday. And you don't push this game off and just let it happen as it's going. I just don't think that was the play because it was embarrassing. Really nice of you to say all those nice things about Hinton. Super cool. Awful. They completed one pass. The Denver Broncos completed.
He had more picks than completions. I understand.
He completed one pass.
That's amazing that he just completed one. He has no preparation, no practice time.
Also, not just him. Everybody. One complete. This entire game had 10 completions in it. There was one completed pass by the entire Denver Broncos.
It was the best high school football game I've ever seen in the NFL.
Horrible.
Boggs, or let's talk about Taysom Hill because you kind of were kind of drifting in that way. Here's another fun fact. You ready for this one? Not since the merger, has a quarterback had 2 rushing touchdowns in consecutive games and 0 passing touchdowns. Okay, so you want to talk about old-timey football.
I thought it was Red Grange was the last person.
Hey, we're gonna run left, we're gonna run right, we're gonna run all through. That's what basically.
I was waiting for the wishbone to show up in this.
It's all those like old videos where they show it's like black and white. They're in the 3-yard line. The goalposts are like 200 feet wide, and they're running around and they just throw the ball like this, and someone catches it, and they're like, "Look at this amazing play in the NFL!" And
leather helmets. That's what we got right now. But let's discuss it because reality is he's gonna get another start, and you made the comment before the break that you don't think that he's going to be the quarterback next year going forward. If they keep winning games with him, why not?
Because you can't keep winning games like this. If they would have played anyone but Denver, they would have played the Jets last week. This game would have been tight. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they would have lost the Jets because they probably wouldn't have because their defense is so good, but it would have been tight. So, you can't win games throwing the ball 16 times in the NFL on a consistent basis. And that's what you have to do with Taysom Hill because he just can't throw the ball down the field. He was terrible last week. He's terrible this week. You just mentioned that crazy stat from the merger. This was the lowest passing yards for the Broncos since 1983, the year the Welsh and I were born. So we're not going to see games like this very often. As far as the game itself,
hopefully never again.
Yes, hopefully never again, for real. I think they probably should have pushed it off to Monday, but I do think they were making a statement because they changed the protocols earlier this week to make them way more strict, and the Broncos flat out ignored them. That's what the contact tracing was. It says you're not, you probably don't have it, but we have to hold you out, and you have to test -5 straight days to go in. The Ravens Steelers thing was different because they had constant positive tests every day leading up to it. This was a guy tested positive on Thursday. No one else has tested positive, but you were in close contact with them not wearing a mask.
And you saw that
so we have
story.
To hold you out. Yeah.
And you saw that story too about like they were trying to ask the NFL for approval if they could get their offensive quality control coach who
he played quarterback in college
and he played quarterback at UCF or somewhere like that. He played quarterback once upon a time. He's 30 years old.
You know what?
I mean, what kind of Disney movie nonsense now on Disney Plus?
That's invincible. That's invincible.
At 60 and just I mean, I would have loved that story. And you know what? Probably would have completed more than one pass.
I bet you would have had at least 2.
I bet you would have. That would have been the story. But we'll see if Netflix or Disney Plus or ABC Family Channel. Or
you know what would have been great? I got a better idea.
What's that?
I think the Saints should have loaned Jameis Winston to the Broncos, and then they could settle their quarterback duel. If the Broncos win, it's like it's a be fired match. In wrestling,
a loser leaves town.
Loser leaves town. Exactly. Nice. Well done. That's the way to go. All right. Speaking of awful passing performances, let's talk about Cam Newton. 84 yards passing. He had 300 plus last week. 84 this week. I just, the Patriots right now are just so frustrating. I don't know what's going on. Damian Harris had looked great. He looked not good in this game, obviously. They go back to James White after the Rex Burkhead injury, which we all said last week that was going to happen this week. And it did. And he answered the bell because that's what James White does. I think that Kyler Murray's not 100%. I think it's clear. Not a lot of shots down the field for him in this game. I don't think he looks 100% healthy, and that's something to keep an eye on because Welsh, I think when you're looking at this right now, you're talking about a guy who, is probably winning people fantasy leagues or getting them into the playoffs, I should say. And if he is not the same player that he usually is, he's going to be the reason you're a first-round exit potentially if he plays the way he did this past week against the Patriots, because this is not the Kyler Murray that you're used to, that you signed up for.
No, and well, there's momentum moving in the completely wrong direction. I mean, not to make it about my team, but the San Francisco 49ers on a roll, beating a division rival. They're right behind the Cardinals right now. The Cardinals are trending in the wrong direction, though I do think there were a lot of things that were working negatively for them in the first place, besides the injury, which might have had a little bit of a limitation on him. You also had Gilmore on Hopkins, which only,
doesn't help. Sure.
Targets. It didn't help.
Kirk's had some massive games in the last 4 weeks. There just wasn't that downfield passing attack. And I understand that there's different schemes and Belichick was going to find things that would confuse Kyler Murray. He did. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is like every other Patriot game of the year. Somehow it comes down to the last couple seconds of the game and somebody's got to kick a field goal to win. That just feels like exactly where every Patriot game pretty much comes down to the last couple seconds. And it's like a coin flip, and it's brutal, and it's going to cost them a franchise quarterback, because Bogman, I think you agree with me. I think Welsh thinks this too, that Cam Newton's not coming back next year for the Pats.
I can't imagine they have him back, because Belichick is getting up there in age too. He needs to figure it out. Like, are we going to sink or are we going to swim? If we're going to sink, let's go ahead and do it. Let's sink all the way down to the bottom and get ourselves a quarterback next year. Or let's throw all the money at somebody who's a free agent. I don't have the free agent list in front of me, but
there's not a lot of free
maybe trade for Kirk Cousins.
Well, I was going to say, you've got, oh God, but I mean, that's the thing. It's like the guys on the market are going to be the Wentzes.
Which would you hate more? Would you hate Cam or Kirk Cousins?
Cam, because at least after the loss, I wouldn't have to watch him in that hat.
Isn't it amazing, by the way, how many teams we are talking about, and we are sitting here saying they can't continue playing like this to be successful? I mean, you look at the Browns.
Oh, it's week 12.
I think it's incredible. Like, it's amazing the Patriots are where they are with how bad Cam Newton is for this offense and how bad he's been. But it's just not the only one. And it's just a market full of everybody wanting, the few free agents that are out there. I just don't know how many are going to be able to improve. I mean, the Patriots probably have one of the better shots at it, but there's no chance Cam Newton can return to that team. Awful.
No, and Boggs, let's continue on the disappointing train, because I had DFS lineups this past Sunday that had Chubb and Henry together, and it had Derek Carr as quarterback. Oh. Derek Carr got me 1 point. I'm pretty sure that Kendall Hinton had 1 point. I'm pretty sure at some point.
Negative.
No, he didn't. He had
negative.
He had negative. But still,
lots of negative.
Yes, but Derek Carr had been averaging 18. I don't understand what has gone on here, because the Raiders, coming off of a game where they were competitive again against the Chiefs, the Raiders, a team that had been beating the teams that they should be beating finally, unlike last year where they were playing up and down to their respective competition. Well, now they go to Atlanta after Atlanta loses to Taysom Hill in New Orleans and looks terrible. They're kicking field goals everywhere. I mean, I never seen a team with so few wins just kicking field goals all the time. How about you go for it on fourth down once in a while and just try to win a football game? How about that? And then you would see the Atlanta Falcons show up defensively, get a ton of pressure, create all these turnovers, and next thing you know, it's just a complete cluster, and the Las Vegas Raiders fail to get a win here against the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm at a loss, Boggs. I don't know what to do. That lineup's still cash, by the way, because Henry and Chubb were still good, but all I kept thinking was, if I had only had Kirk Cousins. Only had Kirk Cousins.
I mean,
instead.
When was the last time you had that thought in your brain? By the way,
about 5 seconds ago, we were talking about the Patriots and Cam Newton.
You could have been saying, if I only had any other quarterback in the NFL, Nick Mullins would have done you better.
Oh, just brutal.
This was Derek Carr turning into a pumpkin. I mean, he's looked much, much better this year. And we talked about it. The difference between this year and the last few years is his confidence in throwing the ball down the field and having better targets, like Nelson Aguilar is a downfield target. Henry Ruggs, who they drafted, is a downfield target. Having those guys really, really helps. But he was getting beat up all day. Atlanta finally got some pressure on the quarterback, and you can see what the rest of that defense can do if you put some pressure on the quarterback. They had a great game. Raheem Morris is trying to get that job, and it seems like he might end up getting it. Yeah,
I think he is. They're responding to him.
They've been playing
this
great.
Was the perfect spot, right, for the Falcons to lay down.
Well, this is also the game where they're down Julio, they're down Todd Gurley, they're down two major offensive pieces, and the defense steps up and plays for Raheem Morris. So, this was more. I thought it was more of a great game from Atlanta than it was. I mean, it was a horrible game from the Raiders, but I think I was more impressed with Atlanta than I was disappointed in the Raiders, because I think even with their success this year, we all kind of knew this was in the realm of possibility for them to have a dud. And that's what happened. And hopefully they got it out of their system.
Well, that's what happens to inconsistent quarterbacks as well.
Yes.
Or inconsistent teams. Also, Josh Jacobs was a little bit banged up in the game. And it was like actually just confirmed that there was some fear that when he had a fumble, he suffered this ankle sprain. There was some initial fear that the injury was going to be worse, but it looks like it is just a sprained ankle and he might be able to return. He's critical for that team. I mean, the positive for Derek Carr is if Jacobs isn't there, you know he's going to throw 60 times in a game, and that's going to put up some stats. But they, again, like a lot of these teams, you need Josh Jacobs in there to establish. And I think, an injury like that sets him apart. Derek Carr's also super inconsistent, and it's not surprising to see the dud happen. It's super frustrating because I'm with you, Joe. My weekend lineup, Derek Carr as well, and
I mean, and he had been so consistent. There should have been a smash game for him against the Falcons. There's no doubt about that. So just very frustrating at this point of where we are with that. But look, we'll see if they bounce back. But, and now they're actually out of the playoff picture. Right now, technically, the Raiders are out of the playoff picture after that loss. And that is just stunning to me that you could blow that. But like you said, Raheem Morris is he deserves at least a long interview for this job. I don't know if he's going to get it, but we'll see what happens here. And let's talk about inconsistency some more. Let's talk about the Rams, my least favorite team this year in the NFL. Trying to figure out the Rams is like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube and you're blindfolded underwater. That's what it's trying to do, trying to figure out the damn Rams. Cam Akers had a touchdown. That's great. I would love to see a stat of how many people have Cam Akers on their fantasy team and how many people have drafted Cam Akers and still have him on their fantasy team, because whoever
what
has
do you
Cam
want
Akers,
to find, like the Cam Akers to happiness scale?
I actually had him starting. I had him starting in one league this week.
Did you draft him, or you acquired him, or you picked him up? Okay,
I drafted
because that
him
is stunning to me. Like anybody who held on this long, like that.
Well,
That's
some deep leagues.
He's been on 3 or 4 different fantasy teams, I imagine, in most leagues by now. Like I can't even imagine that's where we're at right now.
If we're starting at the Welsh with the Akers to happiness scale, I don't think we're going to move very far.
No, it's not going to move very far at all. Like this was a desperation situation of bye weeks and injuries, and it's also like a 2 flex league, like 2 utility spots. So I popped him in and he was able to put in, but he's been trending a little bit in the right direction. And I think, the 49ers are a tough gauge for, I think, any offense, especially on the run side, to say like Darrell Henderson averaging under 2 yards per carry. Is this the decimation of him? I don't know, but I think it might be the start of them understanding that maybe you have some early ground and pound with Henderson and let Cam Akers spread it out, better pass catcher.
They've been putting Akers in late and against worn down defenses and stuff, setting him up for success.
That is the 49ers scheme of success for running backs. They would not start Raheem Mostert. They would start with a Tevin Coleman, or they'd have a drive with Jeffrey Wilson Jr. And then about 5 plays into a drive, they're going to bring Raheem Mostert in to drop 22 mile per hour down the gut, break the holes. And that is a literal successful scheme that the 49ers run. And I think it would be better place for them to do that with Cam Akers. So Cam Akers' snap count might be a little bit lower moving forward, but he might be one of those guys, maybe plays, 22 snaps, but he's going to
get if he's going to get goal line carries, who cares?
True.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's about right now. It's funny. We're remiss too. We didn't mention it. And we were talking about Arizona too, the Kenyon Drake goal line carries that seem to be abundant all of a sudden after being non-existent for the first 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
But
he's healthy now. Like that was the thing. He had a bunch of little stuff, I think, nagging him. So that they went ahead and, let him sit out for a couple weeks, and now he looks really healthy. Drake does.
Going back to the 49ers, Debo had a great game, and it's always if Debo's healthy. And we've all been Team Debo here since his rookie season last year. Before he came in, we all were fighting over shares of him in leagues, the 3 of us. And it's the same story. It's like when he's on the field and healthy, it's great. When he's not, it's so frustrating. And I think going into next year, he's going to be another one of those kind of guys, those risk reward guys. And I'll probably be a sucker and take another shot on him. Here's a question for you. Is the quarterback of the 49ers 2021 on this roster, or do you think they're going to go out and make a move for somebody? And if so, would it make sense to make a move and keep Garoppolo, but maybe try to bring in a project like Sam Darnold or somebody like that, get him off back to the West Coast?
No, I mean, I think the first quick, easy answer is like, yeah, it's probably going to be Garoppolo. They got a lot of money tied into him. I think that's the guy. the project is possible, but I think Shanahan would rather groom. I think he'd rather bring in a new guy. I think Mullins and Beathard are done. They've got to be off this roster, and bring in a new guy and let Garoppolo have one more shot, because the team is built off of the run. And what they've also kind of been successfully able to do, which is amazing to me with how the quarterback play has been, is they can feature one wide receiver and they can do it really well. But it's also the wide receiver being able to do this, because Deebo Samuel, to me, is our new modern Anquan Boldin. For people that aren't familiar with who Anquan Boldin was, it was, not a big air, everyone's into air yards right now. I believe Deebo had 8 air yards in this game, and everything else was after
the 49ers offense. It slants over the middle all day long, and if you have a good linebacking core who can pick that up and stop it, you'll stop the 49ers.
But that's why they need the personnel to work. And right. Deebo is that type of guy. Deebo is a bruiser. He was like I said, it was shades of Anquan Boldin. Doesn't need air yards. It's all after the catch. It's yak. That's something that Brandon Ayuk can do. And I think Garoppolo will get another shot because there have been so many injuries with Kittle back. But I do think they are going to draft and groom a quarterback in case this doesn't work. I don't think a guy like Darnold doesn't make sense to me with the money they've already spent in Garoppolo. But hey, you know what? Maybe they pull the Saints and they don't make any sense, and they have all the money tied into this guy. Then they'll spend a bunch of money over here. Then maybe they'll re-sign some loser that doesn't even play quarterback to play quarterback. Who knows what they'll do? But I don't think it's Darnold or anybody else.
I wonder what Welsh's opinion on Taysom Hill is. I've been curious about it, but yeah, we'll get some loser that doesn't play quarterback to play quarterback. Yeah, I think we know.
It's just like how is Winston not starting there?
I don't know. All right, we're getting a break. We come back. We'll talk about some games that were over before they started. You're listening to the Black Book right here on the Brawl Network. We'll be right back right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Black Book. And look, the Sunday night game was pretty much over before it started, it felt like. Despite a couple, I would say a couple, because Mr. Trubisky had not one but 2 face masks pulled on him and did not get called on the same play where they picked up that ball and ran into the end zone. But it didn't matter. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was dropped back 30 times, and you know how many times he was hit? Zero times and 30 dropbacks for Aaron Rodgers in this game. It just was very easy for them. You give Aaron Rodgers 5 seconds on average to throw the football, bad things are going to happen.
That's the most impressive stat of the day, especially with the way the Bears
exactly. The Green Bay O-line played really well. Lazard's return was very important. I feel like Robert Tonyan also, Boggs, has kind of given them a little bit more physicality on offense. Is something they kind of lack. They haven't had an edge offensively in quite some time. Tonyan is kind of that guy. Like, he's stiff-arming guys. He's pushing guys over. He's a threat in the red zone. And I think it's been good for the identity of this offense a little bit. And I feel like that's something going forward that they should continue to build on next year, because it feels like that guy, Davante Adams is the star, and Aaron Jones, last year was brilliant. This year has been banged up, but Tonyan's kind of been that unsung hero that's kind of really been that toughness. And I feel like that, coupled with Aaron Rodgers, chip on the shoulder, if you will, has really been the difference in the Packers this year.
Well, I mean, it starts and ends with Aaron Rodgers. Of course.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest part. As much as you don't like him, Joe, he is really good.
I respect Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
I just don't like his face.
That's debatable. But anyway, I hate the way they're spreading the ball around, which is great if you're a Packers fan to see all these guys, getting in the mix. But for us fantasy nerds, we want not 17 for Aaron Jones and 17 for Jamal Williams. We want about 25 for Aaron Jones. The rest can go to Jamal Williams. We want Davante Adams to be what he has been this year, getting 10 catches, and everybody else getting 3 or 4 is fine by us. But that's not the way it happened in this game. Like you said, it got away from them real quick. 4 touchdowns, 4 different targets on all of those touchdowns for Aaron Rodgers. And, Jamal Williams, another week where he gets a touchdown and Aaron Jones doesn't. That's kind of annoying. So for fantasy purposes, this offense is humming, but it's Adams, it's Rodgers, and even Aaron Jones is starting to become a little frustrating. And he's a stud. He's real.
He is a stud, but you know what? They know he's on the way out. Well, he was good. He is good. I think it's
3
injuries.
weeks ago. Yeah, he was good.
3 weeks ago. But I think they also know that he's a free agent, and I think that they're just going to. Look, Aaron Rodgers is a good enough quarterback. He's going to just do whatever it is that they're giving him and win. I mean, he's going to win games. And yesterday they were just giving him all the time in the world in that pocket, and he's going to sit back and pick you apart. And it's way more fun for him to throw the ball than turn around and hand it off. And look, Trubisky, still throwing into triple coverage where you just go, what are we doing here? And I think the Bears are finally kind of, hard lessons, right? Where it's like, okay, next year we're looking for a new quarterback and figuring that out. And maybe this is where Wentz,
about the players, like he's got to go.
He might go too. Maybe this is where Wentz ends up
not only
next
the
year.
coach, but like how many starters do you think actually return to this offense? We need, like, Allen Robinson's a free agent. He's out liking, fans are tweeting him he should leave the Bears, and he's liking all the tweets on it. How many of those Bears do you actually think, like from the day of the season starting here to next year, are actually on that roster playing?
Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, we're going to see how good Mooney is next year too. In Montgomery,
I think Montgomery could not be starting. I think the Bears could be like, we're going to bring in a new quarterback.
It depends. It depends on if they do let Nagy go and turn it over here. I mean, it just feels like the way that GMs and head coaches are losing their jobs. I have never, ever in my life seen more general managers and coaches fired in an NFL season by week 12. I've never seen this. It's madness.
They still have a shot at the playoffs too. The Cardinals
are
6-5, holding that last spot. The Vikings, the Bears, and Niners are all 5-6. All of those teams have a shot at the playoffs still, which is kind of disgusting to think of, but they can all still make it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about those Vikings for a second here. Look, I want to give some credit here to the Carolina D because, Carolina, you're going to look at that record at the end of the year and you're going to say, wow, they didn't win a lot of games, but they won more games than people thought. But when you watch Carolina on a weekly basis, the effort level is there. And it's just like things don't go their way. And just they fight and they battle. And this defense is playing better. They're still young. But look, they held the Minnesota Vikings to 10 points in the first half of this game. And then they kind of fell apart at the end there. And Jefferson had another great game and a great game without Thielen there. So that answers that question, if Jefferson can handle the workload without Thielen. So I thought that was impressive. Chad Beebe had his redemption, Welsh, after, muffing that kick return there. So this was a big win, important win for Minnesota, but also from the Carolina standpoint, they still had a chance to win this game at the end. They missed that field goal, and it's kind of frustrating, but I feel like Carolina is that moral victory every week where you feel like they're building towards something better. Do you agree?
But do you think that's on the coaching then? Because
I think it's 100% the coach. I think the coaching, whatever they've done. What's that?
Can they return then? I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting at, because I kind of agree with you. You got a lot of players that have played up. You lost McCaffrey. That thing has been taken out. So do you give a pass, or do you look at this and say, man, we are close. We need a different scheme to make this work.
I don't think they need Christian McCaffrey to make this work and another year or two of these young rookies on defense to get with the program, because they are just very green, and it shows up at the end of games. It shows up in those big spots.
They're young. They have the youngest defense
in the league. Right. Yeah. I think that's what it is. I think Matt Rule's done a great job. I think Joe Brady's going to be gone. I think he's going to be a head. One of these teams is going to take Joe Brady to be their head coach.
He'll be a college head coach at least. If he's not an NFL,
I think his play calling's been brilliant. But look. That being said, Justin Jefferson right now, Welsh. I know it seems like a foregone conclusion that Herbert is, going to be rookie of the year because Tua's, fallen off now with his injury and Burrow's out for the year. But Jefferson really should have more consideration. He's been terrific this year.
Claypool has been a monster, and if he actually gets to play games and stuff, he might have a better chance at pushing that. Yeah, Herbert is the guy, but Justin Jefferson, Claypool is the biggest rookie surprise of this year, and I think Justin Jefferson might be the biggest lock of consistency of what, at least what I guess coming in, because what did he catch, 111 passes when he's at LSU? He's a big time possession receiver. He's built to be able to not only make plays, but catch the ball. This isn't a guy that, it's just run these, 30-yard post patterns and deep ball. This is a guy that can go over the middle. He can catch the ball in any capacity. He can play multiple spots. I thought Justin Jefferson was one of the best fantasy rookie options this year. Bogman would give me crap in drafts because I would be taking rookie.
Every draft.
I took him everywhere. But he took over the Diggs role.
I'm with you, and you and I were in lockstep on that, and everybody else was, chasing. I chased CeeDee Lamb more than anybody, but the other guy for me was Justin Jefferson, and that was the guy that I thought could, like you said, step into that Diggs role. But you know what? I want to give him credit without Thielen there to step up and be the guy in big spots in that fourth quarter. He was that dude. All right, let's fly through some of the rest of these games here because not all of them were incredibly fantasy relevant or worth discussing. Certainly the Cincinnati Giants game was not a big fantasy game, although Wayne Gallman continues to get touchdowns.
5 and 5 games.
5 and 5 games. Pretty good and cheap on DFS. We've been talking about him quite a bit, Boggs and I, on the DFS show. Also, Daniel Jones going away injured in that game. Keep an eye on that. If that hamstring's no good, you're going to have Colt McCoy leading the Giants.
It sounds like it's going to be just this week. They said it sounds like it's a minor hamstring strain, but he probably won't go this Sunday, but he'll be able to go the following week. So.
And then Welsh, you had the Jets, of course, lose to to the Miami Dolphins. Does Ryan Fitzpatrick? I know they're saying, well, no, it's Tua is healthy, Tua plays next week. But if you look at the upcoming schedule here for the Dolphins, after next week when they play Cincinnati, it gets pretty tough. I mean, they've got Kansas City, New England, and then Vegas and Buffalo on the road. Don't you think you're a better chance to make the playoffs with Fitzpatrick at this point in those kind of spots?
I think they are going to be an open book when it comes to all of this. And I think you have to be when you're rocking a 7-4 record. And Fitzpatrick is a pretty decent piece behind all of this, that I think there's a high likelihood that they could be like, Tannehill one more. We're going to give themselves a reason to bring, I said Tannehill, to bring Tua back in. We're going to go Fitzpatrick one more, and we're going to work through this. I think you could even have a healthy Tua get pulled from games coming into the back end of the year, because this is what Fitzpatrick is built for. He's literally built for this type of a run. And it is still incredible to me what the Dolphins are doing with this roster. I mean, off the top of your head, name a running back with the Dolphins, quick.
Ahmed.
Myles Gaskin.
An active.
Oh, yeah. that's harder. Yeah.
Oh, win, ding, ding. Okay, 3 yards. You got it.
But Flores has been that guy. I mean, Flores is a tough SOB. I mean, I watched his post-game press conference and I was like, dude, that guy would get mad if you gave him a free milkshake. That guy's he's just mad. He's just like, we won today against the Jets. I would not want to cross that guy. Brian Flores is a tough guy. And, I feel like he's willing the Dolphins to be competitive. He did it last year with even less. And he's doing it this year with, I don't know, marginally more, not much more.
This might be one of the least talented offenses for a 7-win team that I can recall in the last 10 years.
It's definitely up there. Up there. And look, in the last game here, we got the Chargers and the Buffalo Bills to recap. And look, this is the 6th 300-yard game for Justin Herbert. Eckler was back. I know that made Welsh very happy. But at the end of the day, I feel like this is the same thing every week. When Buffalo wins games still, I always go, okay, well, Buffalo got to win. But I never feel like it's a commanding win. Do you get what I'm saying? It feels like they just, even when they win, it doesn't feel like they're really controlling the W for some reason. I don't know. Something about Buffalo. Maybe they're just not the same team defensively year over year.
W, Joe. They're not.
Yeah, they're nibbling
the W.
They're beating around the W.
Yeah,
like in Swingers, right? When he's like, you're just beating around the bunny. He's beating around the W. They're not really. You gotta own the W. You gotta grab
these claws and these fangs, and you don't know how to kill the bunny, man. You're just batting the bunny around.
Yeah, that's more like.
You'll always get me with a Swinger reference. I'll always jump in with a Swingers reference.
I figured you would. So, I mean, any takeaways from this game, either of you?
Not really.
But I would say this: Buffalo continuously plays up and down to their competition.
Eckler's the big takeaway. I mean, that's the big takeaway. Is he came back and he had, they said, limited role and 25 touches. He ran more routes than any other running back in the NFL this week.
Keenan Allen also saw a drop of the 20% share that he gets. Massive drop in this game. And
he was also playing one of the better secondaries in the league. So I'm not going to overreact to that one.
And to that point, that could have been the reason that Eckler was even more involved in the passing game, because those lanes are, closed up a little bit for Keenan.
All right, real quick too. Let's do the Thanksgiving games, because technically that was week 12 too. Deshaun Watson. But Deshaun Watson's playing great football.
Magician.
I mean, he is just playing phenomenal football. And now obviously Detroit's made a change at GM and head coach as well. Patricia's gone, not surprising at all. There's so many job openings.
The Lions fans are so happy that the donations came pouring in to Deshaun Watson's charity. So that was pretty
awesome. And then, of course, you had the second year in a row where the Dallas Cowboys lose at home on Thanksgiving. And I'll tell you what, man, Antonio Gibson looking real good, Boggs. That's all you. If Welsh is Jefferson, then you are Antonio Gibson. And he looks like that dude, man. I'm telling you, your patience is paid off with that guy. And I give you a lot of credit. But yeah, I mean, he's been the best rookie running back in some ways.
I think the most impressive stat from that game for Antonio Gibson was 96 yards, and 2 of his 3 touchdowns were between the tackles. And that's a guy that, he had 34 carries in college. He was much more of a wide receiver. The Washington actually drafted him as a wide receiver. The card said wideout on it. So they flipped him to running back, and he has absolutely made it work. He's a smart kid, making it all work, and he put together a huge game here against Dallas, and he's their guy moving forward. I'm not – Welsh and I talked about this on ITL. We're not going to kill McKissick yet because Alex Smith is still the quarterback. And right. Off, but they just didn't have to do that because Dallas's defense plays
I feel like every couple of weeks you see Gibson continuing to build and build, and I think it's really exciting. And you know what? Him and James Robinson, at the end of the day, those are going to be the best 2 rookie running backs.
James Robinson is incredible.
James Robinson, man. There's a dude who's just getting work, man. And he had that little downturn for a couple of weeks, and I was getting a little worried. I was like, oh no. And then he's bounced back, and he's been really good. Another good game this past week, even with Mike Glennon.
Just think, people paid the 1st-round pick for Allaire, and a guy that they picked up off the free agent wire in week 1 is going to be more valuable than him.
100%. I think this class is going to affect rookie running back standings in drafts moving forward because everyone was Taylor, everyone was
Taylor Swift, but Taylor Swift. I love Taylor Swift. Everybody loves Taylor Swift.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Taylor, and DeAndre Swift, and Robinson is the best.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire
better too.
Dude, the CH helium was absurd to take him in the 1st round. I just thought it was absurd. I get the logic, but it's not necessary. And I always say, like, if it's not necessary, why do you put that kind of anchor around yourself where a guy has to return that value? Necessary
for me to drink my own urine? No, but it's sterile.
We're new here. Careful. We don't want to be
dodgeball.
But at any rate, it is stunning. And the Taylor helium was not far behind, and he's been the best guy. I mean, James Robinson's been it. There's no doubt about that. And real quick, Mike McCarthy, one and done as Dallas Cowboys head coach. Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, 100%. I can't believe he's still employed. All right, 2-minute drill starts right now. So, the Brady handshake. I said we'd come back to it, and here we are. So he shakes Mahomes' hand, Breeze's hand. He shakes the hand of Justin Herbert, even young kid, but he doesn't shake Jared Goff's hand or Nick Foles' hand. He did, and I understand.
Those are after losses too.
Well, but
I understand. Crybaby.
I understand, but here's the thing: he lost to Drew Brees. He shook Drew Brees' hand.
Yeah, that's true.
Twice. So here's the thing, and I am Mr. Tom Brady, but I'm gonna say it. Taking it to bad job. I'm taking him to task. Bad job, Tom Brady. You gotta shake everybody's hand or nobody's hand.
Can I ask? Are we shaking hands in 2020 still? Are we still doing that?
Yeah, but you can't.
Shouldn't we be praising him for not touching contact tracing?
Okay, but how about a fist bump? How about just an acknowledgement that the other quarterback exists?
Guy on the helmet. Here's the thing, Welsh. He could have totally got away with that nonsense this year. I don't want to shake anybody's hand. I'm just social distancing. I'm trying to be responsible. No, he goes out there and selectively chooses which quarterbacks that he thinks are beneath him.
I like it.
So you like it. So you think it's game. You're like, no, I won't shake Jared Goff's hand.
You know what? I don't want to high five everybody after a loss and every single time. I don't want to do that like in softball. Y'all line up and
that's fine. That's fair. But then shake nobody's hand, win or lose. Just go to the locker room.
You know what? He only does? He's only a winner. So he's only touching winners. He's not going to touch losers.
So Herbert's a winner.
Herbert is absolutely a winner. You kidding me? It's a future.
He's a statistical winner. He's not a winner.
Like the Niners of the Rams kryptonite. Nick Foles is his kryptonite.
So. Yeah, I understand.
Never. I'm surprised he's not throwing things at Nick Foles. He's never going to shake his hand.
Well, don't worry, Tom, because the Black Book was ahead of Nick Foles' book for a couple weeks on Amazon, so we did it for you. Don't worry about it. All right. I want to thank.
Shake his hand.
I would shake Tom Brady's hand.
Nick Foles' hand. Joe.
I don't know. That's to be determined. I have to think. I'll have an answer next time for that. In the meantime, make sure you follow us over on Twitter at Joe Pisapia17, at Bogman Sports, and at Is It the Welsh. Again, I want to thank everybody at the Brawl Network for inviting us over to spend some quality time with you. And we hope this is going to be a fun opportunity, not just for the network, but also for us and for you, the listeners and the watchers here of the program. So we thank you for your time. And again, we'll be back here next week. And we'll do it all again. So that'll do it for Bogman and Welsh and me, Joey P. But the story of the game goes on. We'll see you next time, kids.